It is 4 p.m. We're bringing developing news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao. Some stories we're watching this Thursday, June 26. Justice Secretary Boying Remulla confirms the International Criminal Court has or is already coordinating with the DOJ. This is in connection with the protection of witnesses involved in the Crimes Against Humanity case against former President Duterte. The DOJ says it says up to 4 people will be placed under the Witness Protection Program while they are in the Philippines. Remulla also clarifies that the Philippine government will not shoulder expenses for these witnesses' travel to The Hague.
We already chose not to pursue the cases and let the ICC pursue these cases. Given that, it becomes also our obligation to help them because we are giving up our jurisdiction for their jurisdiction. Kasi nga, ang hirap na i-prove yung case dito at i-build up ang kaso dahil yung mga kailangan mong magsalita ay kasama sa krimen. Kaya komplikado rito. We will protect the witnesses. Whatever it takes to protect the witnesses, we will do. Because the prosecution will rely on these witnesses.
The Office of the Public Counsel for Victims has urged the ICC to reject former President Duterte's request for interim release, citing grave charges and risks to the victim's safety. The office argues that Duterte still wields significant power and access to case evidence. Meanwhile, ICC-accredited lawyer attorney Gilbert Andres defended the government's cooperation with the criminal court. He says this reflects the Philippines' residual obligations under the Rome Statute despite its withdrawal from the treaty. PhilHealth, or the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, will undergo restructuring to resolve operational gaps and improve service delivery. The Governance Commission for Government-Owned and Controlled Corporations, or GOCC, gave the go signal for the revamp. This restructure includes 503 organizational units, over 7,000 positions, and a new office for benefit claims appeals.
And the Manila Regional Trial Court Branch 27 acquits Police Colonel Hansel Marantan and 12 other police officers in the 2013 Antimonan shootout that targeted the alleged Hueteng Lord Vic Seaman. The court ruled that officers acted in fulfillment of duty amid actual danger, citing use of reasonable force. The high-profile case involved allegations of a rubout masquerading as a shootout. And joining us today, busy on his cell phone, Storycon's political heckler, Tito Raul Llamas.
Gandang hapon sa ating lahat. Laban na si Ami.
Wala kang makritik.
Wala.
Ha?
Wala pa si Ami ngayon? Ay,
Wala kang makritik.
Oo.
Sige, magandang hapon na lang.
Sinexy lang yung i-fashion critic mo.
Paano yung fashion critic? We're all wearing the same colors. Black, white.
Oo nga naman pala tayo.
Napaka-monochromatic nga natin.
Magandang hapon na lang kay Yusek Claire Castro.
May
Ayun,
ganung
ka na
pagpati
naman
ka.
eh. What's the backstory there?
Magkasabay lang kami kahapon.
Usus.
Press 1.
And you guys made up?
Oo,
Pati na kayo?
bating-bati.
Okay. To the point na,
I don't
balita ko, she publicly said that,
Wala na ganyan.
mapupunta na naman tayo sa love life eh.
Oh, grabe kang love life kagad na naisip mo.
Wala kayong...
Tumalon kagad siya.
Hoy.
Lang kami. Naghuntahan lang. Oo.
Naisip
Wala
niyang huntahan.
si Manny Mugato, kaya ako nasala.
Si Manny Mugato na naman.
Hindi mo alam ang huntahan? Saan kuweba ka na naman ako?
Maaga pa ha. We just started 2 minutes pa lang. Nagsasangkway ba ka na dapat sa...
Liwanag mo, huntahan.
What's a good word? Nag-chikadoodle, gano'n.
Chikadoodle! Napaka-antique naman ang references mo.
Baka...
Chikahan, o yan.
Chikadoodle.
She's so up there.
Hindi. All I mean is, update nyo naman yung references nyo. Marites na ngayon.
Tayo ba kayo nang may... O sige, may Yakult pa, may Maxima Culpa. Latin pa yun, ha?
Mea culpa.
Latin pa yun, ha?
Nasa beach na kami, nakalabas na kami sa kuweba. Ikaw na iwan.
Ako naiwan sa kuweba. Ano ba yan?
Uy,
What to do? Oy,
laki mga story ngayon.
speaking of tumalon, may tumalon.
Hindi lang tapunan, umikot pa.
Umikot.
Nagpiruwet.
Okay, we are talking about Justice
Ang
Secretary.
posisyon natin sa, ng posisyon ng bansa, ng administrasyon pala.
Ang posisyon ng administrasyon pagdating sa ICC, sa International Criminal Court.
Mahalaga yung salitang coordination, di ba? Yun ang mahalaga, nag-coordinate.
Why?
Dati kasi totally wala eh.
Hindi lang totally wala. Dati,
totally.
rejection.
Outright rejection and threatening pa. They were threatening na kapag dumating ang ICC prosecutor sa bansa that they will kick them out. Diretso balik
That was
sa...
early 2023. At meron pang resolution ng Senate at saka House para protektahan si ex-President Duterte.
Na nagpiruwet
Correct.
din.
Oo, tapos later that year, medyo may resolution na para supportahan ang ICC.
2024 ba yun?
Oo, 2023.
20 ba? Basta tanda ko first quarter.
Late 2023, nagbago na yung posisyon. At doon din sa late 2023, nagsabi si DOJ Secretary Remulla at even si President Bongbong na pinag-aaralan ang pagbalik sa ICC. At inamin nila na merong nakapasok dito na ICC delegation.
Di ba ikaw nagkami nun?
Hindi, ako baliwala eh. Sila kinonfirm nila. Ako inamin ko lang
Inamin mo na alam mo.
na nandito sila.
You know, kahit na it started to change 2023, they were still putting
Urong-sulong.
up, they were still putting up a semblance of
Urong-sulong.
rejection eh. They were still saying...
Atras Abante.
and-
Walang kinalaman si Congressman Abante ron. No? Atras Abante. No, yung 2024.
There was a lot of denial around that time, 'di ba? Kahit na napapansin na natin, the language was softening. There was a lot of denial.
Minsan, init-lamig eh.
Actually, sa labas ng kuweba talaga maraming ganyan.
Sa loob wala. It's just mainit sa loob.
Oo, bago-bago.
Let me back up a bit lang.
In the
Kasi
real world. No?
okay.
In the real world.
Maraming
we had several interviews kasi with Remullas dun sa the old program, The Chiefs. In August 25, 2022, interview namin with Remullas sa The Chiefs. Nagulat kami kasi bigla niya sinabi na they have several police officers who have told the DOJ that they want to testify on EJ case, pero takot silang lumabas.
narinig
Pero
ko yan.
confirm ni narinig mo yan, confirm ni Remulla yun na meron kami mga kausap, hindi lang sila makapagsalita kasi hindi sila pasok o sakop ng Witness Protection Program. Because the WPP does not excludes police officers from the protection program. So ayaw nila magsalita because of that.
Pero dalawa yung key witnesses doon, mga dating pulis eh.
Si Las Cañas at si Matobato.
Hindi, yung isa pa.
Okay.
Yung isa pa ron.
Pero wala na sila sa service eh. They opted out na eh.
So, mga active pa.
Oo. So, and these guys, kasi, I think he's talking about yung mas current period. Hindi yung
Pero
panahon
tingin
ng
ko pag
Davao.
nag-proceed na yung kaso, ay may possibility na mag-witness na yung mga yan. Dahil may protection na sila. No? Kaya at nagbago na rin yung posisyon ng gobyerno.
Tapos quickly lang po, yung sasabi ng 2023, that's April 13, 2023 rin, sa The Chiefs, sabi ni
Nasa
Remulla.
YouTube pa, di ba?
I think we have the quote na eh. Ready by
Okay.
quote?
Hindi pa yata
From
ready.
2023 April.
Hindi pa ready.
Okay. And we quote, I will meet them, or I will meet the ICC if they come here via airplane, so they can take the first plane out. I will tell them, go home, we will do nothing in this country. If you have complaints, file it with us.
Kailan yan? April.
April 13,
Oh,
2023.
pero November, December, nandito na sila. As tourists.
As tourists,
As tourists, nandito na sila.
Ikaw yung tourist guide.
And as tourists, kinausap nila yung ilang mga families ng mga victims, mga lawyers, no? Kinausap nila at iba pa. No? So kinausap nila.
In November 2023.
Oo. Kaya nung December ay ang sabi ni ex-human rights lawyer Harry Roque, ay, hindi na pala si Speaker ang aming kalaban. Dahil nalaman namin na ang nagpapapasok sa ICC ay no less than President Bongbong Marcos. Yun ang sabi ni Harry December 2023.
Okay.
Parang doon na talaga yung
ate.
irrevocable na nung una kasi ang banat nila puro speaker.
Kaya nga eh, it
Nung,
wasn't
nung
clear
December,
at that point.
Nung December, inamin na nila the president, no less than the president, is out to get us.
Labok, we have the soundbite. Let's play the soundbite from the Chiefs.
Well, ako, ang position ko dyan, sasalubungin ko na sa airport and accompany them on their trip back.
Oh, sasalubungin niyo pa, sir.
Oh.
Salubungin ko sila para they can take the first plane out. Sir,
Sir, what about,
Sir, do you mean, are you saying
Pero-
deportation? What do you mean, sir?
i-deport ba sila or what? Since you are in charge of BI eh.
so, buwi na kayo. Wala kayong gagawin sa Pilipinas. Kami, kung meron kayong reklamo, file nyo sa amin.
Yun.
Yan ang ibig sabihin ng politics, labas ng kuweba.
Wait.
Pwede ka magbago ng
Wait,
posisyon.
Bok, you look exactly the same as 3 years ago, ah.
Hindi, mas
Not bad.
maputi buhok ko.
Mas maputi. Oo nga, no? Nagkukulay ka na.
May konting gray, may konting brown yung kanyang buhok.
Oo nga. Bumata ka, Bok. But,
Si Ami, mukhang bata rin dyan eh.
but, meron bang soundbite from a year ago, as recently as a year ago. I wonder if that's ready. Also, saying something along the same lines. Ready na po ba yung...
Parang hindi bata.
Okay,
Alright,
let's run it.
They will have no compulsory process in the country. They will not even be empowered to issue subpoenas in the country. They have not even coordinated with us about it. So if they want to come in as a hostile government, as a hostile force to come in. But they cannot do that to us.
Mahaba pa yan. That was a public briefing from a year ago wherein Justice Secretary Remulla said the entry of ICC investigators into the country is a usurpation of Philippine government authority and that he believes yung kung sino may subjects of the arrest warrants are still Filipino citizens, therefore they deserve protection from the government. At that point in time, yun yung sinabi niya. This is as recent as a year ago. Now, we dug up those sound bites to contrast it with his sound bites from today. Hindi pa yata ready, dina-download pa kasi medyo marami siya.
Alright, yeah.
Okay. So let's run the sound bites from today's ambush interview.
We will offer advice to him also not to travel to countries where the ICC will be able to influence the judicial system.
Ayan.
That's an older, I think that's an older soundbite.
Do we have...
Oh, ina-advise niya si
Yes, sorry.
Bong.
We made a mistake. That's not the soundbite from today. Do we have the soundbite from today? Yung from the ambush interview today?
Anyway, while they're still doing it up, we're presenting these soundbites to show you the evolution lamang of policy.
Evolution ba ang tawag doon?
So
What you
wait.
call it then.
Before you weigh in, just to recap, may transcript naman tayo ng sound bites. This is Justice Secretary Remulla. Again, number 1, we confirm cooperation with the ICC. Right? Number 2, we have a responsibility to protect the witnesses at all costs. He's talking about the drug war witnesses. Number 3, he says, merong obligasyon to hindi daw siya mismo yung kausap ng ICC, but apparently the
Witness Protection
ICC
Program.
called the Witness Protection Program of the Philippines,
Which is under DOJ din naman.
connected to the
Yeah.
DOJ, yes, pero hindi siya directly tinawagan. The ICC directly called the WPP, Witness Protection Program, and they're looking to put under the WPP 3 to 4 witnesses at this point. And then number 3, we have, because we already chose not to pursue cases and let the ICC pursue the cases, it then becomes our obligation to help them because we are giving up our jurisdiction for their jurisdiction. Ang hirap i-prove ng kaso at i-build up ang kaso dahil mga kailangan magsalita ay kasama sa krimen. Kaya komplikado ito, pinaibayat na namin sa ICC. Loud and clear. There's no room for misinterpreting those words. They have gone and fully cooperated with the ICC at this point. Note the key words here: cooperation, full protection for witnesses, obligation to help.
We are working as government protecting people. The government has to protect witnesses, whether for ICC or for the general population. So, may ganun siyang
Okay,
pag-iimay.
now you can contrast that with everything he said from as recent as last year to the previous years. Diba?
So,
Which is what the sound bites were for.
Sabi kasi ng Ed, yung evolution. Evolution kasi, kanyan eh.
The gradual, ano?
Dahang nag-evolve yung species.
Yung
Oo nga,
buntot
parang
mo,
hindi
burong,
rin-
gano'n.
I agree, parang hindi bagay evolution eh.
Tawag
This is
dito
like
kasi-
Hindi very conservative.
Ang tawag dyan sa evolutionary process ay a qualitative leap.
Aba!
Na kung saan biglang, boom! Nagkaroon ng mga
Parang Big Bang yan, ah.
Oo, parang ano, no?
Kita mo.
May ganyang key moment sa evolution ng species sa mundo eh. Na nagkaroon ka ng, hindi naman Big Bang, pero yung qualitative leap ang tawag nila.
See?
Ano yung evolutionary is quantitative eh. Dahan-dahan, nagbabago yung posisyon.
Parang-
Yung qualitative, talaga nagbago.
Parang umuurong
Diba?
yung buntot mo unti-unti,
Oo,
gano'n.
talagang
Oo.
may...
Quantum leap.
Oo,
Parang See, di ba, Bok, sabi ko, I started the show by saying, speaking of tumalon,
Matagal na pala siya nakalabas sa kuweba.
hindi recent lang.
Si Camille Samonte was in the ambush interview with Secretary Remulla. Camille is, of course, a reporter of Channel 5. Camille, can you tell us what else he said or how he qualified then paano yung pagkakapaliwanag niya doon sa pagbago ng tono ng gobyerno?
Yes, Bo, kinumpirma nga ng Department of Justice na nakipag-ugnayan sa kanila ang ICC para nga mabigyan ng proteksyon itong mga testigo sa kasong Crimes Against Humanity laban kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Ayon kay Justice Secretary Boying Remulla, kailangan matiyak ang kaligtasan ng mga testigo habang andito sila sa Pilipinas. Pero hininaw niya na hindi naman ito taliwas doon sa naunang posisyon nga ng gobyerno na kasi nga diba noong 2019 pumalas lang Pilipinas sa Rome Statute. Ang ginigit niya lang dito ay binigay na kasi, kumaga pinaubayan ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas ang kaso nitong kay Duterte sa ICC dahil yung mga biktima dito ay nahihirapan nga maghain ng kaso dahil nga sa kahirapan na makakuha ng ebidensya at testigo. So yan yung paliwanag kanina ni Secretary Boying Remulla kaugnay dyan po.
Okay. Pero Bok, pinaliwanag ba niya kung, wala ba sa kanilang dissonance dun sa previous nilang mga pahayag versus sa pahayag ngayon?
Wala ba nagtanong about it?
Actually, Bok, matagal na rin namin na tinatanong yan, no, prior to the arrest of former President Duterte. Ang ulit-ulit ang iginigiit ni Secretary Remulla na walang kooperasyon ang ICC, ang ating gobyerno sa ICC. Pero ang sinasabi niya kasi ngayon, nasa jurisdiction na ng ICC si Duterte dahil ando doon na nga siya, nakabite na nga siya doon sa dahig. So wala na silang choice kung hindi tumugon na lamang doon sa kailangan ng ICC pagdating nga dito sa mga testigo. Pero paglilinaw niya, hanggang dito lang yung gagawin nilang pag-protest dito sa mga testigo, pero once daw nga na lumipad na sa dahig at yung pagpapalipad din sa dahig ng mga testigo ay responsibilidad na ito ng ICC.
Mhm. Kasi nung in the past 2 years ang mga interview with Remulla, ang pagkakabito pa nga niya pag pumunta rito, i-deport niya. Hindi nila papayagang mag-conduct ng interviews dito sa mga testigo. Or data collection. As turista, pwede raw, pero not as investigators. So, medyo nagbago ng konti. Well, hindi ng konti. hindi rin medyo.
180. So, nag-flip-flop po sila.
Actually, Bok, yung ito pa lang nung pakikipag-cooperate or yung idadaan sa Interpol, doon pa lang may change of tune na. Hindi ba kung matatandaan niyo na pinoint out ni Secretary Remulla yung kahalagahan ng pakikipag-cooperate ng Pilipinas sa Interpol dahil malaki ang pakinabang natin dyan para nga masugpo yung international crime at yung sa kaso nga rin ni Tevez. So, doon pa lang na nakita na natin yung change of tune. Nung una talagang very firm na no cooperation, we will not entertain. But nung dumating na nga yung issue na kung sidadaan nga sa Interpol, no choice but to cooperate because dahil na beneficial nga ito sa ating gobyerno. So doon pa lang nakita natin meron na nga pagbabago. Until sa nakita na nga natin yung actual arrest na nangyari kay dating Pangulong Duterte.
Mhm. Okay. Sorry, last question lang po. Very last question. Ano ba, wala sa nakikitang legal issues dito na baka questionin to ng kampo ni Duterte? Na 2019 pa tayo umalis sa ICC. Bakit ngayon nakikipagtulungan tayo?
Lahat naman kay question na nila.
Yeah,
Bagay.
actually, before book, I think it was one of the arguments of the defense of Duterte. Isa yan sa mga ipinunto nilang argumento doon sa kanilang petition nga o yung motion nila para doon sa interim release ni Duterte kung saan nga kine-question nila yung jurisdiction at pinoint out din actually ng counsel ni Duterte nga na matagal na hindi miyembro ang Pilipinas ng ICC kaya hindi na dapat ito magkaroon ng jurisdiction na ayun nga arestuhin at madala sa doon. So even before pa matagal na talagang kine-question ito ng counsel ni Duterte but for the DOJ, ang stand nila dyan, yun nga, dahil idanaan na nga ito sa Interpol, wala na tayong magagawa kung hindi makipag-cooperate.
Okay.
Wala ko,
Alright.
wala
Sorry,
kasi ako
we have
nakikita,
to-
wala ko
we have to
nakikita
let
hindrance
we have to let her go first kasi
Abo,
magre-report pa siya.
Igor natin si...
Okay, thank you for your reporting, News 5 correspondent Camille Samonte.
Historically, politically, wala naman ako nakikitang hindrance for a sovereign state to relate, halimbawa, with multilateral organizations like the ICC, kahit hindi sila membro. Actually, yung Europe,
That's also true.
yung European at saka mga North American states, especially yung US, na hindi membro ng ICC, ay matagal nang nakikipag-coordinate, lalo na para hulihin yung mga warlords, yung mga African warlords. Dahil walang enforcement capacity kasi ang ICC at yung Interpol medyo hirap sa Africa at saka Middle East. So tumutulong sa kanila dyan, mga European states at saka US na hindi membro ng ICC. Pwera na lang kung ang huhulihin ay kaalyado ng US katulad ni Netanyahu. No?
It's your prerogative as a sovereign state.
Yeah. Oh,
It is.
Walang hindrance dyan.
Oh, it is.
Oo,
And of course,
walang hindrance
I see what you're saying, pero you know where this is going to end up sa Supreme Court ulit, right?
Yeah,
Because,
pero hindi ko
it will be challenged.
wala akong makita na
It is
na-
bound to be challenged.
wala akong
legally.
nakikitang president or anything in our constitution na pipigilan tayo as a state to relate with other multilateral organizations na kwan.
In much as a manner that si President Bongbong Marcos was saying, essentially, remember that night that si Duterte boarded the plane, sabi niya, I had no choice in the matter, right?
Pero
Interpol came knocking.
in-invoke na Interpol naman.
Oo, Interpol came knocking, and since we cooperate with Interpol, I had no choice but to hand him over.
Parang
yung-
meron naman kasing interlocking directorate siya. Wala ka sa ICC pero nasa Interpol ka.
Correct.
Wala ka sa ICC pero nasa UN ka. Sa Human Rights Committee ng United Nations, etc. So, may mga interlocking directorates sa international.
And there are different pressures din.
na pwede kang mag-relate. Halimbawa, yung sabi nga niya, kahit wala tayong extradition treaty sa Netherlands, ay pwede tayong mag-request sa Dutch government para i-expel.
Expel.
Si Harry
Expulsion.
Roque, diba?
Which is also an
Yes.
immigration prerogative.
Yes, kahit wala kang treaty sa kanila.
Oo, correct.
Because depende sa mga sovereign state yan. Gusto nilang
Yeah,
mag-coordinate,
absolutely.
magtulungan.
It's absolutely in their control. Just like we like to say that, we have absolute jurisdiction in the Philippines, right? Okay, medyo mahaba-haba tong transcript that we got from today's ambush interview with Secretary Remulla. And again, we're still trying to download the video para we can play some parts of it. Pero medyo mahaba, so it's gonna take a while. But he was also asked if babalik na ba tayo sa ICC, and he says that's another decision we have to make as a country. It just means we recognize the International Tribunal in charge of the case kasi dun na nga din nila si PRRD. So yun lang yun. So again, there's a key word there which is
Yun lang yun.
recognized. Diba? Dati, we do not recognize. Tas today, naging we recognize the International Tribunal in charge of the case. So again,
Actually,
just trying to contrast yung sinabi noon sa sinabi ngayon and how those two are completely different.
Pero kung na tayo, moveon.com, huwag na nating isubo sa kanila yung mga dati nilang sinabi. Pero
May konteksto, ikaw naman. no?
Pero kasi pag kiniskis mo sa mukha, baka magaspang eh. Yung mga sinabi, di ba?
Ikaw naman, feeling mo, pambibi naman yung kutis mo.
Ako kasi baka sabihin ng principal, ba't mo sinabi nung dati, ganito.
Oo nga.
Tapos ngayon, ganito sinasabi
Oo
mo.
nga.
Panabog.
That's part,
Malabibi ang kutis yun.
that is part of accountability.
Sasabihin
Sinabi mo noon, we took you at your word. Sinabi mo ngayon, iba sa dati mo sinabi. So that's accountability.
Sa labas kasi ng kuweba, nagbabago yung mundo. Ang tawag dyan, politics.
The shifting winds, shifting tides of
Tawag dyan,
politics.
politics, di ba? Oo.
So
Tignan na real politic na lang.
so real politics. So that is at the heart of this issue, right? Which is we're trying to get to the bottom of this. Bakit nga nagbago? So all I'm trying to do here is
Sinagaway sila.
illustrate.
May unit team kasi naman. May unit team kayo.
Mag-diagram ka dyan.
Hirap naman magpaliwanag dito.
Ito yung alam mo, pag si Ron, nagkamot ng ulit ng nagkamot ng bumbunan niya, magpanik ka na.
Hirap naman magpaliwanag dito.
Okay.
Bakit ganun? Ba't ngayon?
Okay. So, I don't know if ready na yung soundbites
Tingin ko
from today. So, real politics.
mas subtle magpaliwanag si Ed kaya sa akin. Ako kasi, subtlety is not one of my strong
It's
parts.
not one of your strong points.
Which is fine. We need to be blunt, don't we? Well, there's no point beating around the bush, di ba? So, okay.
Nagbibit naman ako around the bush, sinahampas ako. No? Binibit ako.
You get beaten up.
Saka naman lulagan niyan. Di ba?
Binibit physically,
Ng principal, pinapalo ka na ruler sa kamay.
Okay.
But you know, that took a lot of people by surprise. In fact, it looks like it even took the DOJ undersecretaries
Yes, correct.
by surprise.
Important
We couldn't
context.
get anybody to comment on it since yesterday dahil parang si Secretary nakakaalam yun.
Oo,
Nagulat lang nagulat lang
Yung
siya.
boss lang ang pwede magbago ng posisyon.
Tinawagan natin yung mga USEC.
Yung boss lang, baka magkamali yung mga USEC. Eh di tanggal sila. Meron pa naman ngayong
Baka sila maribamp.
review. Hindi yung revamp.
that's
May review pa naman ngayon.
Reassess.
There's a Damocles sword
baka
hanging
tamaan
over
sila,
you.
di ba? So,
But do we then conclude na biglaan to? Or this is all part of a grand strategy?
Tingin ko bigla.
hindi siya evolutionary, no?
Kaya nga, bigla.
Parang kanyan parang yung ang tawag din sa evolution, the Cambrian explosion. Yun yung moment
From Precambrian to Cambrian.
yan yung moment na from mga one-celled organisms na ganun, biglang
multi-cell
nag-multi-cell, no?
So
Biglang
may
dumami.
umakit na sa dalampasigan.
Yun yung naging foundation ng humanity, yung tinatawag na Cambrian explosion. Na biglang evolution, dahan-dahan, biglang boom.
So you both agree, parang hindi no? Hindi siya
I
slow
think it's
burn.
surprising that he announced it. The fact that he announced it now is surprising. Pero everything's been in the works eh. Di ba?
Pero mukhang
I mean, even yung appearance nila sa Senado where they justified the arrest of Duterte saying na walang ebidensya kasi
hindi.
sinunog o
Hindi
ni-record.
nagpo-prosper ang mga kaso nito. Walang records.
Walang forensics.
Walang records ang police, no? Et cetera, et cetera.
And he repeated it here.
Sinabi nila yon. At mismo yung pagka-aresto ni Digong, was a game changer. Ibig sabihin,
Of course.
something is happening, no? Na hindi evolutionary.
But what we're surprised about this time around is yung language nga ni SOJ Remulla, which is completely different from what he said in the past.
So, siguro nagka-epiphany lang tayo na parang, nga, no?
Baka naman
they've been doing
may
this
green light na to go and speak openly
Yeah.
and plainly about it, right? Instead of like trying to couch
They're beating around the
everything.
bush, trying to call,
Baka naman may clearance na okay, go ahead.
Saka ako kasi, pag moveon.com na, pag positibo naman, okay, masaya na ako.
Wait, teka. Mag-gap muna tayo. May commercial tayo eh. Gulo nyo eh.
We've been told to take a gap. For watching Storycon One News,
yan ang Cambrian explosion
we'll
niyo pa
be
dyan.
right back. Stay with us.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.
We've got developing news and the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to the cave. I'm sorry. Welcome back to Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm
Che.
Gao.
And I'm
Ronald
really,
kasi.
Regina Lay, still with us. Ronald Llamas, our resident political heckler. So, naging heckler na talaga. But let us bring in...
Nag-evolve.
Yan yung evolution. Let's bring in our guest for the day, Assistant to ICC Counsel, Attorney Christina Conti. Attorney Conti, thank you for joining us again. I understand you just came from the studio. Thank you for rushing to make time for us.
Good afternoon,
Yes, hello.
attorney.
Good afternoon.
Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. Who
Ano
first?
bang kwan? Ano bang...
Ma'am, ikaw na.
Hindi, ikaw na.
Sige,
Pwede.
ma'am,
Sige, ako na.
Itong announcement ni Boying Remulla caught everybody by surprise. I'm wondering if you expected this as well. Itong bigla may cooperation with the ICC for the witnesses.
Surprise.
Well, no, it was also a pleasant surprise for us that they're offering this kind of support or this kind of cooperation with the court, essentially. What we knew at one point was that the Department of Justice was trying to investigate also parallelly the crimes against humanity as ordered by or as recommended by the House of Representatives Quadcom. So alam namin na nag-iimbestiga sila, alam namin na actually nag-reach out sila sa amin, pero yung ganitong klaseng support, this is in a way unprecedented because this really would be a responsibility of a member state. Kaya i-welcome namin itong tulong na to pero wala pa kami ngayon na coordination as to this offer.
Pero, attorney, medyo nag-backpedal ng kaunti si Secretary Boying doon sa sinabi niya the other day na talagang tutulungan nilang financially. Ngayon ay binawi niya yun. Ang sabi na lang niya, yung witness protection ang
Security, yeah.
tulong. No? Pero surprising ba talaga yan after nung pagtulong natin na i-facilitate yung arrest ni Digong sa Interpol at dalhin sa The Hague at after nung mga speeches nila Secretary Remulla at Secretary John Vic sa Senate na sinabi nila na talagang kinakailangan talaga itong ICC dahil yung mga ebidensya rito ay non-existent. Yung mga binaril sa ulo, ang nakalagay ay namatay sa cardiac arrest, etc. etc. Ibig sabihin, sineset na nila yung template para dito sa statement niya the other day and today. No? Parang since the arrest, nagbago na qualitatively yung kanilang attitude towards the ICC.
Well, yes, of course, there's that. But you cannot really trust or cannot rely on their statements na, kasi ganito na. We were working within the context or premise that they were, and I mean, in the Philippines, we're building a case locally. So talagang kumbaga kahit paano magkakaroon ng proteksyon. Yung issue lang namin na parang paano ba itong support na ito, there's going to be complications. Kaya kahit sa ngayon na parang may openness, we need to understand that in the ICC, the protection that they provide is, well, very different. And if you ask the victims, they would rather be protected by the ICC or parang in some ways under the control of the ICC yung protection rather than, well, by the Philippine government, which in the first place allowed them to be victimized. Remember that I don't know how the victim protection program of the DOJ will look like, but if it is under the quote-unquote regular witnesses protection program under DOJ, there's not much trust on that on the part of the victims kasi ito din yung mga opisyales na nagsangkalan sa kanila noon nagsabing okay lang yan, nanlaban naman kaya hindi na tayo magsasampa ng kaso. On the other hand, if they're going to provide say PNP personnel for security, so we don't know kasi the parameters, PNP very questionable because these are the very same people who committed the crimes before. So I don't know how this is going to work out, but certainly the ICC will be depending on member states to provide protection.
Pero
The commitment of the Philippine government lang has to really be qualified so stringently so that there will be no stone left unturned, kumbaga.
following your inputs, attorney, paano nyo ina-navigate itong medyo complicated sitwasyon na ito? Dahil for a long time, mini-maintain nyo yung inyong independence from the government. Ngayon, may offer yung government ng witness protection, etc. So, yung independence na yan may be affected dahil dito sa openness ng gobyerno na tumulong. Paano nyo ina-navigate yan? Tatanggapin nyo ba yung tulong na yan? Or sabi nyo nga kanina, ang hirap i-take at face value yung kanilang sinasabi. Dahil siyempre, kasama dun sa mga naging problema, halimbawa, yung gumawa ng tokhang ay nasa gobyerno pa. No? At hindi nakakagulat na perhaps some of them ay nandun pa nagtatago sa Department of Justice or halimbawa sa Philippine National Police. Kaya how do you do that? How do you maintain your independence and at the same time welcome this openness to help galing sa gobyerno?
Attorney, idikit ko rin kay Ronald kasi it's a related question eh. Kasi what if, sana naman hindi no, pero what if tumagal ng mahigit 3 taon ito sa ICC at magbago administrasyon habang gumagalaw pa yung kaso, then that complicates everything. Diba? Because
Right.
your witnesses would be under the
Protection of the state. Na nagbago yung
diba?
leadership.
So, may mga ganong tanong. Of course, we're hoping na hindi naman ganun katagal. But what if eh?
Oh, it's going to be that long. So,
Longer. Longer.
Ako, again, we need to understand muna what the need is for protection. Titingnan namin kung kailangan ba yung intervention ng government. Because, as you've mentioned, as it would appear, it is not just quote-unquote government that's coming up to us. And that's clear. There's going to be, kumbaga, an issue of allegiances. It's not government that's approaching essentially. It's the Marcos administration that's approaching us. And what if it's a different administration? Malinaw yon. In a perfect world, it's just government, simply put. Kumbaga, walang kulay yan. It's government helping its people. And that is, in a perfect world, what the ICC had intended. That the local or the member state, that the local police, local authorities will be able to assist the victims. So, yes, we will approach this cautiously. And I'll put in an example na, kumbaga, open naman kami, pero hindi rin. During the Quadcom hearings, security was a concern. But the Quadcom, the House of Representatives, were offering to mobilize PNP to support the victims. And of course, we had to caution them and explain to them, ma'am, hindi papayag yung mga biktima na susundan yan hanggang bahay. Naintindihan nyo ba? So, I think we came to a compromise that the staff of the House of Representatives will, quote-unquote, escort us to the gate of the HOR. Pero hindi na hanggang bahay. Kumbaga, open naman, pero may hangganan. So, I'm looking at possible tactical arrangements. For example, just making sure that the airport is well secured if some victims leave. You know, we're not, kumbaga, hindi naman kami, ayaw naman namin na ayaw talaga entirely yung government. Government has to work for its people and we will support it when it does. So, maybe we can explore some tactical issues. Pero, again, everything, there's nothing on paper yet. Ayaw namin matulad sa nangyari sa defense at saka sa prosecution na sabi ng prosecution ganito. Tapos sabi ng, di ba, yung nag-anuhan sila na parang nag-bluff. Ayaw namin gano'n na wala pa namang final, wala pa namang areglado, nag-agree na. So hanggang ngayon, open, but we need to thresh out the details.
Si SOJ Remulla also said, Attorney Conti, that they're looking at 3 to 4 witnesses that will go under the witness protection program. Do we know? I mean, because of course there are some witnesses that are out of the country already. Do you know if these pertain to just witnesses that are here, still in the Philippines?
Well, I would think so. One, there are some witnesses, yes, that are still here in the Philippines. We just would caution na let's not speculate too much kung sino ba itong mga witnesses nito for their protection as well. But obviously from what Remulla has said, if they're going to secure them, then obviously they should be within the authority of the DOJ. So nandito yan sa Pilipinas. Or it could also mean that they will assist in the perhaps processing of documents for Filipinos already abroad. So, depende yan at again, on the part of the victims, uh, technically bulag kami dyan in a sense kasi prosecution ang bahala sa witnesses. We cooperate on some points but it's the prosecution really which has to look out for the witnesses.
And then one of the other stark contradictory things that SOJ Remulla said today was we recognize the International Tribunal, which is of course a complete flip-flop from what they used to say as far back, as recently in fact as last year when they would insist that ICC does not have jurisdiction. Tapos ngayon, today, we have a soundbite of him saying kinikilala ang tribunal court ng ICC. And then he also said gustong tulungan ng ibang pamilya pero mahirap mag-case build-up dahil lahat ng ebidensya burado. So, on the other hand, so there's one. But on the other hand, the fact that President Duterte is now detained, for them to get to that point, they said they have sufficient evidence and reasonable grounds to believe that he committed crimes against humanity. Parang there's a bit of a chasm there for me. Help me reconcile those two things. Do they have reasonable grounds? Do they have sufficient evidence at this point to believe so? And secondly, how much more of a case build-up do they need to do in order to get to where they want to go? Yung prosecutors, I mean.
Well, I need to clarify this, that at the same time that there's a case against Duterte, the investigation is still ongoing. Kakaiba to kasi sa Pilipinas kapag may warrant of arrest na or nagsisimula na sa korte, parang tapos na ang lahat. Naimbestigahan na yan. The investigation is ongoing, which is why the prosecution can still continue to collect evidence, if not against Duterte per se, to be used in his case, but perhaps against other co-perpetrators. And so let's not lose sight of the fact that there could be additional perpetrators and therefore additional cases in relation to the Philippine situation. Tapos, ang itsura niyan, pwedeng maging tatlo yung kaso, tatlong tao yung nakaaresto in relation to the situation in the Philippines. Tatlo, apat, ilan pa. Kaya, kumbaga, against Duterte, there is reasonable basis to believe he is one of the most responsible. Pero how about the others? So may ganun pang determination dun sa possible, iba pang akusado.
And that's why the case build-up is ongoing. But as you touched on earlier, medyo mahirap. It's hard to find hard evidence, is that right?
Yes, I think it has been hard for the Office of the Prosecutor to reach out to, well, initially to the Philippine government and obtain documents. Partly because this administration might not have any idea of what happened before. I mean, might not have an idea of, saan ba namin nahanapin yan? May ganyan ba talaga? And especially if the theory is there is a parang parallel structure na may PNP, yes, pero sa totoo yung instructions, hindi through memorandum, hindi through circular, kundi through parang bulungan, pass on from the DDS, quote-unquote, the death squad. Kaya medyo palagay ko nangangapa din yung ICC on that front. And but suffice to say na meron silang maraming dokumento. Maraming nag-submit sa kanila ng dokumento. And if I recall correctly, there's about 26,000 pages of documents in their repository. Ang tawag nila doon parang, tambak nyo lahat dyan ng na-receive nating information. Parang nangangalahati na sila doon sa nabasa na process na. Pero yung kalahati pa, di pa nila napaprocess. And I would imagine they're still continuing to accept information. Kaya, it might not have been, kumbaga, hindi kayang i-provide ng Philippine government, or on the other hand, hindi lang maklaro kung paano ba yung kukunin. For example, who has to maintain the list or the names of those killed in the war on drugs? So unlike in other countries, maybe they have a system for tracking that, and their police force, kumbaga, would be assiduous in keeping the list. Sa atin wala. In fact, nag-iba-iba pa yung mga numbers, di ba? At the very end, the PNP, DITM, so si Matthew Bakay, submitted well, this is in tabular form, a tally of 7,640 persons dead in police operations. Pero sabi namin, asan po yung mga pangalan? Asan po yung parang paglilinaw nito? And from what I understand, from what I felt from their answers, it might have come from reports from the regions na number lang. Tapos nagtali na lang yung DIDM sa dulo. Pero there are no names to this. There's no central repository. There's no, di ba, walang online systematic or systematized program ang PNP. Pag magsasubmit ka nga dyan ng police report, written. Isusulat mo isa-isa, di ba? Hindi yung nakatype. Kaya walang database ang PNP. Which is why on the part of the ICC, I would guess, paano namin nahanapin itong 7,640 na dead in police operations? Some parts they can get from the victims because we have provided information. Pero kumbaga, there's just no system in the Philippines, so the ICC has to create that for us.
Pero attorney, di ba, in spite of those problems, in spite of those almost criminal negligence ng ating kapulisan at ng ating gobyerno, especially nung panahon ng Duterte presidency, ay kaya tumagal yung proseso bago nag-issue ng international warrant. Kaya tumagal yung preliminary examination at preliminary investigation ay talagang pinilit nila na may sapat silang ebidensya in spite of all those limits na bago sila mag-issue ng international warrant ay medyo solid yung kanilang ebidensya, yung kanilang mga testigo para mataas yung percentage ng conviction. So, kumbaga hindi siya haw-shaw na nag-issue lang sila ng international warrant. Medyo solid na rin yung kanilang naipon galing sa inyo, galing sa ibang grupo, galing sa sarili nilang motopropyo na investigasyon. Kaya, kumbaga ay yung possibility na ito ay talagang makonvict ay hindi ganoon kaliit. Parang dito sa usapin ng interim release, hindi na yan bago, pinaghandaan na yan. Di ba? Yung pag-reject ng interim release ng prosecution dahil alam nila na hihingiin yan nung defense. No? Kaya para lang sa mga mamamayan natin, baka isipin nila, teka, parang ang hirap nitong kasong ito dahil marami pang mga ebidensya na hindi nakukuha.
Well, yeah, I would agree that in any case, actually, maski sa amin, hindi ka papasok sa korte or hindi ka papasok sa trial nang hindi ayos at hindi conviction ang target mo. Hindi pwedeng, sige, try natin, baka. No. They're trial ready and up to the very end, they have made sure that they secured the necessary evidence. It's just that kumbaga hindi pa buo yung buong picture. Kumbaga ano ba talaga? Pero may sapat sila kay Duterte. Actually sabi ko nga mag-sift through lang sila ng PCO, Presidential Communications Office, statements by Duterte have been helpful and instrumental in the submissions of the pretrial chamber. Of the prosecution. Tingnan nyo nga ngayon, no? Dito sa interim release naman, chock full, ang daming mga statements of Duterte na binabalik ng prosecutor at meron siyang reference. Di ba sa ganito? I think, kumbaga, what the ICC has made, quote-unquote, for us is a database, is a system where you can, kumbaga, ask intelligent questions like, what are the statements of Duterte regarding this? You know? So, kumbaga, something smart enough na system that you can, kumbaga, ask or parang you can draw from fields based on particular queries. Hindi yung you will rely, tayo ngayon, I would rely on institutional memory na parang kailan niya nga ba sinabi, naalala ko yun, and then you Google it. Paano kung mawawala yung mga website, paano mawawala yung mga repository niya. Yung ICC, meticuloso dyan. Ida-download nila yan, i-verify nila yan. Pero on the part of interim release, we're also worried about that kasi while they are against it as it seems now, we are worried about the portion where they talk about initial talks with the defense. Na inamin naman nila, nag-uusap kami dati, pero gusto namin sa isang partikular na bansa. And in the pleading, they also say, well, if they file another and this interim release request is rejected, if they file another request in compliance with the conditions of the prosecutor, parang ang duda ko, parang mauulit na naman, baka i-consider na naman ng prosecutor. They reserve the right to comment daw. So, as of now, the prosecutor is not on principle, kumbaga, does not reject interim release. So, we're a little bit worried about that, although when you read the document, I have no other observation or no other conclusion except that he should not be allowed interim release because he does not meet the criteria or the standards.
In short, it sounds like the defense strategy is to keep filing motions.
It could be. It could be.
You know, hoping that one of them could slip through.
May mag-shoot, ganyan.
Shotgun.
Shotgun approach. I actually first heard that term from Marites Vitug, a fellow journalist.
Attorney,
Pero parang
bakit yung prosecution mukhang open doon sa release? I mean, that's what I'm getting from you now, and that's also what I got yesterday when I was reading to the writings. Parang just because they disagreed on the final country
to host him,
doon nagkatalo. But otherwise, parang they were good to go.
Baka tactics
Well,
siya.
yeah. Here's the thing. In the ICC and in international tribunals, syempre, international standards of human rights yan. Interim release is actually a matter of right. And you do not detain a person unless, and then there are grounds. So, for them, presumption of innocence. You are innocent until proven guilty. So, that applies to Duterte. But, so ito yung importante, yung but. There are grounds and parang tatlo yun generally. First, ikukulong ka para siguradong sisipot ka sa kaso. Pangalawa, ikukulong ka or issue ka ng warrant of arrest as in the case of Duterte kung mukhang i-obstruct mo o haharangan ang kaso or proceedings or yung mga participants nito. And pangatlo, kung sakali, mukhang gagawa ka pa ng dagdag na krimen. So, show up in court, obstruct or endanger, and then commit further crimes. And if you notice, Duterte assured us in his submission in the interim release request, diba? Yun yung hinihit niya. Hindi ako flight risk, hindi ako tatakas, hindi ako gagawa ng krimen, etc. Because essentially, these are what the ICC has previously ruled as basis not to allow interim release. Pero from what I see it, yun nga, the prosecution has enough basis to say no to interim release on principle. But I guess it has to show that still, kumbaga, makatao pa rin dapat yung pakikitungo.
But although interestingly, we know that no persons charged with crimes against humanity has yet been granted interim release, as far as we know in the history of ICC. But that is all the time we have for today. Unfortunately, we'll pick up this conversation with you another time. Thank you for joining Storycon today, Assistant to ICC Counsel, Attorney Cristina Conti. Thank you, ma'am.
Salamat,
Thank you, ma'am.
attorney.
Thank you.
Okay, wala nang time for your last minute
In a perfect world.
political heckling kasi sinasabihan
Mas mahalaga yung in a perfect world.
Thank you for joining Storycon today. Ronald Llamas, a resident political pundit who lives in a perfect world.
From the Precambrian era.
From the Cambrian
Precambrian era.
era. Join us again tomorrow, 4 p.m. for Storycon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao. We have one news, all sides, all the time.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.